In today's video, we have some more NHL free agent signings to discuss, plus yet another member of the 2018 draft class has signed his entry-level contract. We'll discuss all those players coming up next. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. We review and discuss all 31 NHL teams, so if you're a huge hockey fan, consider subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. So as I mentioned off the top, we have a bunch more NHL contract signings to discuss here today. Some of these were announced yesterday on July the 17th, and some more came out this morning here on the 18th. So as you know, if you've been following along the series in the channel, I've been kind of letting these pile up a little bit here, so we have enough to discuss here at one time. So let's jump in and take a look here at some contracts that were signed here in the past couple of days. The San Jose Sharks have re-signed center iceman Chris Tierney to a 2-year contract worth just over $2.9 million per season. I think this is a pretty fair contract for Tierney. He appeared in all 82 games last year, putting up 40 points, playing a pretty solid role for the club throughout the season. So it's nice to see him get an extension here. So I think this is a pretty fair deal for both sides. $2.9 million is more than sufficient for a player of his caliber at this point in his career. So we'll see how this goes going forward. As the year went on, it looked like Tierney's value to the Sharks certainly kept rising and certainly played a bigger role here. So I think this is a pretty good contract for Tierney and the Sharks. The Vegas Golden Knights have re-signed winger Thomas Nosek to a 1-year deal worth just shy of $1 million, coming in at $962K. This is certainly a very low-risk deal for the Vegas Golden Knights here. I mean, Nosek did play a pretty decent role down the stretch and into the playoffs. To get him on a 1-year deal under $1 million, I think is a pretty good of a bargain contract. I mean, really, Nosek hasn't been overly established here in the NHL. He kind of really developed here last year in Vegas, like many players did, giving a bigger opportunity. And he seemed to thrive in that role, often playing third and fourth line minutes, and really, I think he did pretty well for them, so I certainly don't see this contract as being bad at all. I think this is a good deal for the Vegas Golden Knights. Good deal for Nosek to kind of hopefully establish himself here even more moving forward. But for anything under $1 million, if you're getting kind of value in production, it's certainly a good contract. So I think for Nosek and the Golden Knights, this is a great deal. The New York Rangers have re-signed forward Jimmy Vesey to a 2-year contract worth just over $2.2 million per season. Now, the former standout at Harvard University hasn't quite developed into the NHL player, offensively at least, that he has been expected to be, but I think that's largely based on the fact that the Rangers have kind of mostly had him in a bottom 6 role, obviously under coach Alain Vigneault. I don't really think Vesey's had a tremendous opportunity to really play with higher end offensive players, so we might see some changes now. Obviously, the Rangers have gone through a lot of changes, not only in the roster but behind the bench as well. Obviously, new head coach David Quinn, coming from the U.S. college hockey scene, might understand a player like Vesey a little bit better and might be able to give him some better utilization here to get him some better offensive players to play with. Even though he's mostly played a lower role for the Rangers last season, he still put up 17 goals. So really, I think Vesey hasn't done too bad given what he's been able to play with for line mates and where he's been slotted in the Rangers lineup. But I think he's a player that we could see develop a lot more here in the next couple of years with all the changes going on in New York and with the new head coach David Quinn in place behind the bench. The New Jersey Devils have re-signed a couple of their RFA wingers, coming to terms with Stefan Noesen as well as Blake Coleman. Noesen gets a 1-year deal, whereas Coleman gets a 3-year contract. Now, of course, Noesen has kind of bounced around a little bit here. This was really his first year really establishing himself as a regular good NHL player with better production. He was originally drafted by Ottawa, sent off to the Anaheim Ducks in the Bobby Ryan trade a few years back. It was quite some time now, bounced around within that organization for a while, ended up in New Jersey, and finally found a new role where he could thrive in this past season. As we know, along with Coleman, the Devils had a lot of guys kind of break out last season. They had a big major youth movement with a lot of younger players kind of stepping up with more of an opportunity and thriving in the roles that they were given here. Coleman's contract is a 3-year deal at $1.8 million, whereas Noesen gets a 1-year deal at $1.7 million. The Calgary Flames have re-signed goaltender John Gillies to a 2-year contract at $750,000. John Gillies has been a goalie in their system now for quite some time, kind of looked upon as possibly being their goalie of the future. As we know, goalies take a little bit longer to develop here, so it's nice to see him stick around. It's not really clear yet if he's going to be full-time in Calgary as a backup or not. Obviously, they have Mike Smith as the starter. At times here, they also have David Rittich, who's slightly older than Gillies, kind of took on that role as a backup for a little bit more time last season. So we'll see what happens here. John Gillies very well still was getting a lot of time in the American Hockey League. Not really clear if he'll be a full-time backup or if he'll have to kind of start off in the AHL and maybe take advantage due to injuries or whatnot. But there is some talk that Gillies might be the goalie of the future for the Flames, but they also have some younger goalies as well in their system who could possibly challenge him for that position here in a couple of years, mainly like a guy like a Ty Parsons, for example. But obviously at this point in time, Gillies is going to remain in the organization and keep working towards becoming a regular NHL player. Speaking of goaltenders, the Nashville Predators have re-signed their goalie Saros to a 3-year contract at $1.5 million. I think this is a very fair contract. Obviously, Pekka Rinne is still in the fold here right now, still playing the bulk of the games for the Predators. So for a backup goalie that's been proven to be pretty good quality like Saros, I think this is an excellent deal. Now, it is possible by the time this contract comes to an end, Saros very well might be the starter. I mean, at this point in time, Rinne has 1 more year on his contract, so I fully suspect him to remain the starter for at least that, and I would not be surprised to see Pekka Rinne sign an extension with Nashville, likely taking a little bit less money here as he's getting up into his older years. Wouldn't be surprised to see him do an extension for another season or 2 at least beyond what he's under contract for right now, and maybe we'll kind of slowly see the number of games Rinne plays goes down while the number of games Saros plays goes up over the next couple of years, so we can see if Saros truly is ready to take on that starter role here when Rinne is kind of ready to kind of give up more of the net here in the next couple of years. So we'll see what happens, but it's a pretty good contract here for the Predators and Saros. The Edmonton Oilers have come to terms with Evan Bouchard, their first-round selection here, the 2018 NHL Draft, on his 3-year entry-level contract. Of course, he was given the rookie max of $925,000. Now, at this point in time, he very well could make the NHL this season. It's not really clear as of yet. Obviously, he's looked pretty good at their rookie development camp so far. So I imagine he'll go into training camp here, and Oilers will better evaluate where they feel he best fits with the organization this year, or maybe he goes back to junior. Obviously, he was the captain of the London Knights, so he could resume that role back in the OHL. And at this point in time, the London Knights likely will have a pretty strong team yet again. He could possibly be joined by fellow 2018 NHL draft selections here, Adam Boqvist, obviously Chicago Blackhawks draft selection out of Sweden, likely going to play for the London Knights, and it is possible that Brady Tkachuk might be playing there as well. As we all know, Brady Tkachuk was drafted number 4 overall by the Ottawa Senators out of Boston University. It's not really clear yet that he's going back to BU, maybe going to Ottawa in the NHL, but his OHL rights are also owned by the London Knights here, and it has been reported it is something he is taking under consideration. So it is possible that London Knights team could be very well stacked, and if Bouchard does go back to play another year of junior and captain that team, he could be playing with some awesome offensive players here, which very well might be another big boost for his career. So wouldn't be all bad if that happens for Bouchard, but the Oilers very well may opt to keep him in Edmonton. So time will tell. Either way, Bouchard's under contract officially now with the Edmonton Oilers. The New York Islanders have come to terms with defenseman Ryan Polk on a 2-year contract for just over $2 million per season. Ryan Polk really emerged as a regular NHL defenseman last year, and he had a really solid season. So obviously the 23-year-old kind of fully established himself here as an NHL player, given some opportunity. Obviously they had a lot of injuries on the back end last year, kind of created some opportunities. With players like Calvin DeHaan, for example, moving on off the blue line, that should create even more of an opportunity, and I would fully suspect a guy like Ryan Polk should be able to benefit from that and play an even bigger role this coming season. Ryan Polk was able to get into 68 games last year for the Islanders and put up 32 points, so that's pretty impressive. So that concludes all of the signings here for today. So obviously there's going to be a lot more RFA contracts coming here in the next couple of days. The arbitration hearings get underway July the 20th, which is only in a couple of days' time. So likely going to see a little bit more of a flurry of some of these guys coming to terms with their teams, as a lot of these players and teams both would like to avoid some of these hearings. Now, one other quick note as well, speaking of players going to arbitration, just a quick note here, Winnipeg Jets defenseman Jacob Trouba has a hearing coming up here soon with the Winnipeg Jets. I've seen a report that they're quite a ways apart on contract. I've seen that the Jets are offering $4 million and Trouba is seeking $7 million. So that's obviously quite a large gap. I know Trouba was appearing to be interested in signing a long-term deal here with the Winnipeg Jets. As we all know, it wasn't that long ago. He was asking for a trade, looking for maybe a bigger role, more opportunity elsewhere, but he's certainly gotten that with Winnipeg. So we'll see what happens here between the Jets and Jacob Trouba here over the next couple of days before the hearings get underway. Now, if you're new to the channel here, I hope you consider subscribing. We cover all 31 NHL teams, and there's plenty of content here for all hockey fans to enjoy. So if you're new, hit that subscribe button. If you like this video, hit the like button as well. I'd really appreciate it if you did. As always, thank you very much for watching, everybody. We will catch you next time.